You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk with Julie Alli.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the program. Great to have you with us on the show. And next to join us on the show is Imtiaz A. Cajee. He is the nephew of Ahmed Timol, whom, as we all know, died in security police detention in 1971. Imtiaz is here to talk to us about my search for the truth. Assalamu alaikum to you. Welcome to the program and great to have you on the show.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Julie, and many thanks for hosting me.
My pleasure entirely. I heard something rather disturbing. The public protector, the statement that was made, I think last week it was, about not, can you just fill us in on the details of not pursuing the issue into the death of, rather not prosecuting the people who were found guilty of the death of our hero, an icon of South Africa, and that is the late Ahmed Timol. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him the highest stages in Jannah. How did that make you feel? I was outraged, I might add. I was totally outraged. And yes, I take into account the fact that these perpetrators, these murderers, are very old men at this point in time. But surely justice needs to be seen to be served.
No, most certainly. Firstly, it was not the public protector, Julie. It was the National Prosecution Authority, the NPA.
Thank you for the correction. Thank you for the correction. Right. Yes.
Right. So if we just go back, look, when the inquest was reopened in 2017, there were 3 security branch officers that were subpoenaed to testify. Right. The one was João Rodrigues, who on his own version of events claimed to be the last person in the room. Right. And the judge claimed that he was dishonest and that he must be investigated and charged appropriately. So his matter is currently with the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. And his criminal case has not commenced to date. Right?
And just also, you have had many discussions with his daughter.
That's correct.
Was it his daughter? She, in fact, came forward to share information about this monster of a man.
Right. And not forgetting that when the NPA, Julie, announced to reopen the inquest in October 2016, we were all under the impression that none of the security branch officers were still living. Okay. So the inquest only opened on the 26th of June 2017. But a few weeks prior to that, a close friend of mine received an email stating that, I see on the news that this man is going to be, or that this matter is going to be reopened. And I'd like to tell you that this man, João Rodrigues, is still living. And these are his contact details. And obviously she was reaching out to me. And when I called her, she confirmed that, yes, João Rodrigues was the last man in the room with my uncle. And in fact, that she was his daughter. And on that particular basis, our private investigator visited Rodrigues to confirm that indeed it was him. And that information was then handed over to the National Prosecution Authority. So if it was not for the daughter making contact with me, the entire inquest would have commenced and Rodrigues would have been sitting in the comforts of his home, watching proceedings because the National Prosecution Authority had failed to locate him. So the importance of the daughter making contact with me is very, very significant. And then it emerged that obviously, she had her own ordeal with her own father. And she's actually she's laid charges against him. And I think before the pandemic, he was to appear in court. So currently with the Rodrigues matter, his criminal case has not commenced, Julie, and his legal team have been appealing, seeking a permanent stay of prosecution. So the matter is currently with the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. Now, with the other 2 security branch officers, Neville Els and Seth Sands, they were found to have committed perjury when they testified. This was the ruling of Judge Billy Mortley, when he announced the verdict on the 12th of October 2017. So from then, I've been pursuing the National Prosecution Authority to give me an update as to what the status of the investigation has been. And initially, within a short period of time, there were cases open against the two of them. And then for a period of 30 months, I've been pushed around from pillar to post, different versions given, different stories given. I got my legal representatives at Weber Wenzel to write directly to the National Director of Public Prosecutions sometime last year. And again, the usual runaround. We're waiting for this person, we're waiting for that person, we're contacting this, we're centralizing directives as to how we deal with apartheid era cases. And eventually, 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Director of Public Prosecutions in Gauteng South, sorry, not Gauteng South, Gauteng North, Pretoria North, responds to me in writing saying that he's just decided that they don't have a winnable case, the issue of time delay, and the fact that when Els and Sons testified, Julie, they denied all the claims against them. So on that particular basis, they don't see any chance or probability of them having a successful case against Sons and Els. So what has emerged is that we had 5 witnesses who came forward and who brought it to our attention that they were personally tortured by said Sons. We got affidavits from 4 of them. The 5th one was Comrade Jesse Duarte, the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, who posted a very lengthy social media broadcast in 2017 of how not only her, but the entire family were tortured by said Sons. And it has emerged that none of the 5 that have come forward have even been interviewed by the NPA. So it appears that the NPA have simply believed the version provided by Sels and Ans, by said Sons and Neville Els during the 2017 inquest, and have simply made the decision that they don't see any chance of a successful prosecution against them. And on that basis, they've dropped all charges against them. But my legal team are busy studying the ruling, and we will definitely respond accordingly.
Imtiaz, you've made this your life work. We've talked previously on other platforms about this as well. And I have no doubt in my mind that this is not where it stops. I think this is going to be with you for the rest of your life. You've subsequently written a book, 2 books, am I right? 2 books
yes.
2 books on your late uncle Ahmed Timol. And like I've indicated, this seems to be your life work. We all know the story. And I think, apart from the NPA proving these people guilty and confirming that your uncle, our hero, Ahmed Timol, was in fact murdered, I think the whole world knows that this is in fact the true story. Will it make any difference to you and to the memory of Ahmed Timol if this just dies a death, a normal natural death, if nothing else comes through from your legal team, obviously digging deeper into it? And I have no doubt in my mind it must have cost you and is costing you a lot of money to pursue, to get the truth to be told.
Look, let's just start with the last question about the funding for this matter, Julie. The reopened inquest of my uncle in 2017 could not have happened without the assistance of former TRC Commissioner Yasmin Suka and the Foundation for Human Rights. They basically set up a team to work closely with me. We constructed the docket, handed it over to the NPA. They provided me with legal representation. And it was on that basis, we had representation at the 2017 inquest, including the subsequent court cases or court appearances of João Rodrigues. It's the Foundation for Human Rights that has been footing the bill for my legal teams. And João Rodrigues' legal fees are being paid by you and I as taxpayers. The state is covering his legal costs. And these are matters that must be contested.
Basis? I'm just wondering on what basis are his legal fees being funded by us ordinary taxpayers? And should someone not take objection to that?
No, most certainly. You see where this comes from was around 2012, 2013. There was an ANC activist by the name of Nokutula Similani that went missing. And her family believed, and it has been confirmed, that she was abducted by Flak Plus operatives, and they destroyed the body. there were no human remains found, and the family till today is searching for her remains. Now, when 2 or 3 security branch operatives in the Similani case appeared in front of the judicial process, they stated that they don't have any legal funding, or they don't have funds to cover their legal cost. And on that particular basis, their matter has been dragging on for the last 6 or 7 years. So their criminal case is expected, or was expected, to commence sometime this year only. And because of the lengthy time delay, one of them has already passed on. So on that particular basis, when Rodriguez, Sons and Els appeared at the inquest, Judge Billy Motley made a ruling that the state must cover the legal cost. Because if he did not make that ruling, they would have used the same excuse like those accused in the Similani matter. Until today, we would not have had any charges against Sons or Els or even Rodriguez pursued. So it was that particular basis on which Rodriguez has been charged, and me and my legal team are contesting and ensuring that he has his day in court. Not because I've got the funding, because the funding is a major issue. And
absolutely.
And we know what legal fees are. And it's simply practically impossible for apartheid-era families to basically come up with those amounts of money to employ legal representatives fighting their cases.
Let's assume you don't get, let's assume he dies, prior to this case being heard, or whatever other eventuality, because he is already in his mid-80s, am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Where does that leave you and your search for the truth? I'm thinking, by having read the books, by having talked with you on numerous occasions, that the truth is out there. I think the whole world knows that Ahmed Timol was murdered by the security police in the then apartheid, under the apartheid regime. Is it still that important for you to make sure that he has his day in court? And if he does not have his day in court for whatever reason, whether he dies prior to that or whatever else happens, where does that leave you? What is the message? What is it that you still want the world to know?
It's a very interesting question, Julie. Let's start first by dealing with the fact that the whole world had known that Ahmed Timol did not commit suicide, that Steve Biko did not die of natural circumstances, that Imam Harun did not fall on a slip of on a flight of stairs, that Suleiman Babla Saluji did not jump out of Gray's building, and the list is endless. But the reality is that more than 2 decades in a democratic South Africa, those apartheid-era findings remain. So the whole world can confirm that these apartheid activists were murdered in apartheid police detention. But future generations will look back at the history books and will say, but the findings state very clearly that they committed suicide and nobody was held responsible. So on that particular basis, we reopened the inquest. So at least now for my uncle, the inquest, the annals of history will record that in 1972, Magistrate de Villiers claimed that he had committed suicide. In 2017, Judge Billy Motley categorically stated that Ahmed Timol did not commit suicide, but that he was murdered. So the only way we can reverse it is by reopening these matters. That's the first point. The second point is nobody in a democratic South Africa has taken the reopening of TRC cases to this particular point. It has never happened. It's unprecedented. I've accepted the fact that if it's time for him to meet his creator, and he will most certainly be held accountable, then let it be. What were the odds that we were ever going to find him? And yet we found him. What were the odds that we were ever going to charge him? And yet 30 months later, even though his criminal case hasn't commenced, his matter is sitting with the Supreme Court of Appeal. Even if he dies tomorrow, he will die as an accused person. And it will set a precedent for all the other cases, including the matter of Dr. Neil Agate, which has been on hold because of the pandemic, the inquest into Dr. Hussein Hafiji, which was scheduled to start this year, the Similani matter, the case of Imam Harun, which is scheduled to also commence some particular point. It will send a very clear message that even now, Julie, we reach out We consistently reach out to Rodriguez, to Sons, to Els, to all apartheid era perpetrators. And when we do so, we don't do so because we are weak. We do so because we are compassionate. We feel that we have an opportunity to rebuild this country. We believe that we must have an honest and a truthful reconciliation process, unlike the one in 1996, where it was only victims that spoke the truth. So we continue reaching out to them. And even now, if Rodriguez is prepared to come forward, take responsibility for his actions, be honest and truthful that he lied under oath in the 2017 inquest, because all the evidence clearly indicates that his version cannot be true. But what do we get in return? We get total denial, total lack of responsibility and accountability, and simply telling us the usual lies that they continued portraying during the apartheid era, with the audacity that there's nothing that we can do to them. So it's a principled approach that we have to take, that even now, if they are not prepared to speak the truth, the family of Neil Ackett, before the Ackett inquest commenced this year, Julie, made it very clear. Come forward, speak the truth, and we as a family will speak on your behalf during the reopening of the inquest to say, look, you are part of a system, things happen, but at least give us the details of how our loved ones were murdered. How was the murder of Ahmed Timol covered up? Because it was covered up, and he is complicit. But the fact that he's not prepared to take responsibility, whether he's 81 or 85, as long as he lives, we will hound him. Because if he doesn't take responsibility, he must face the full wrath of the law.
So clearly it's all about families getting closure, just the admittance. And as you rightly say, you don't want the man to be sentenced. I mean, he's so old already, but just the fact, just to give the family peace of mind and closure, and then you can move on. But I don't think that you, Imtiaz, I think this has become your life's work. And inshallah, let's hope and pray that Rodriguez does give you the closure that you're looking for, you and your family. How do you move forward? Because for many, many years, you've been involved in searching for the truth. Are you going to set up some sort of a foundation to try and help other families to try and get to the end and to find the truth for themselves, for their loved ones who've passed on under very mysterious circumstances?
No, most certainly. This was obviously a journey started as a young obedient nephew that has written a book on his uncle in 2005. But 15 years later, with the experience that I've acquired and the families that I've met, I've confronted issues head on in this particular publication. And this has already in the last few years brought me into contact with many, many other families throughout the country. And these families are looking up to me for assistance and guidance to say, but Imtiaz, you were 5 years old when your uncle was killed. How did you go about doing research, publishing 2 books, having the inquest reopened? So I've already made it my life's journey that irrespective of what happens to Rodriguez, Sons and else, this matter does not come to an end for me. I've been chosen by the Almighty. He's empowered me. He's opened doors for me, which are unprecedented. That it's my duty, it's my moral obligation to help these families. That when I have in the Eastern Cape, we have Black consciousness leader Mapetla Mohape, who police claimed was killed who committed suicide in police detention. His daughters were 1 and 2 years old, and they want to know today what happened to our dad. They cannot accept the fact to tell their own kids that their father committed suicide. It's unacceptable. And this is a plight of all the families that I'm in contact with. And we're definitely working closely together. And you will definitely hear in the next few days our plan of action, because this is something that is not going to disappear, irrespective of how painful it might be even for our politicians to hear. We are going nowhere. The killing of George Floyd has reminded us. We cannot just be fighting against racism on one particular day or one event. The fight against racism continues, and our fighting for the truth and justice for our loved ones must continue in a democratic South Africa.
Inshallah, and long may you live to realize your life's work and your life's dream. Is there a third book in the pipeline? And if so, what's it all about?
Look, the second book, Julie, I mean, it stopped with Rodriguez's first court appearance, which was on the 30th of July 2017. And a lot has happened from then till today. I mean, his criminal case has not even commenced because they've been using the delaying tactics. So there's a lot that is unfolded. But the matter of the Supreme Court of Appeal is going to be very critical because it's going to set a precedent for all other cases. So I have definitely made the intention to work on the third book. And obviously, once this particular matter on Sons and Els and Rodriguez is completed, inshallah, I hope to complete the third book.
Rodriguez's daughter, I mean, she reached out to you and she gave you people critical information about her father. You've said, and in previous interviews, this was covered as well, that she was a victim of abuse by her father. What is she saying? I have no doubt in my mind that you're still in contact with her. What are her thoughts on how things have progressed from the time she reached out to you up to this point in time?
Well, it's a very difficult and painful time for her. You know, to see your own father. I mean, she was completely ostracized by her own family when she left home after her ordeal. And her family broke all ties with her. And for her, then so many years later, to stand up and to literally hand over her father to the NPA to face these charges has taken a toll on her. But she's consciously made her own decision to lay charges against her father, which is not something that I can make on or, you know, I could influence. It was a decision that she made, that the only way she can find closure is by charging her own father. So obviously that is something that will unfold. And we hear violence against women, children, ongoing. I mean, the president spoke about it yesterday. But what were the odds that this man, who was in the last person to be in the room with Uncle Ahmed, according to their version, his own daughter hands him over to me because the state had failed to locate him. I mean, that can only be because of the grace of the Almighty and nothing else.
Absolutely. And of course, your journey then carries on. We'll be watching the space to see what else unfolds. And we also look forward to that third book. And we make dua, inshallah, that Allah be with you every step of the way. And you truly, you personally, Imtiaz and the family, find the closure that you're so desperately searching for. And the rest of us are behind you 101%. Shukran very much for talking to us. And like I said, we'll be watching the space and keeping in touch with you, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And we got a break. When we get back, we'll be joined by the COO of Salam Media, and that is Fatima Sukaria, to talk to us about all of the amazing projects that are initiated and gets obviously unfolds right here on in our backyards and our doorstep, inshallah.